So I come from a South Indian family. I'm actually a Tamil Brahmin. So I don't know how many of you know, but Tamil Brahmin families usually tend to be a little orthodox. So I had to grow up, around a lot of rituals and family functions and festivals and all that. Yeah, it's fine. So for a majority of my life, I used to be the awkward person in my class. During my school days, I didn't have a lot of friends, and I was slowly trying to fit in society. And I think after I stepped into the field of science and technology, I realized like all these beliefs and systems didn't fit me, or it wasn't a part of who I was. I started exploring the field of science instead. And I realized that there was a lot of conflict between the two areas. So that further added to my awkwardness. And I never fit in properly. I used to walk around school looking like Marshall Erickson from How I Met Your Mother. I was that fat. Finally, when I entered high school, I came across a really good bunch of friends. And I befriended quite a few people, and towards like the 11th grade, I actually started dating one of my best friends. So when I started dating her, it felt good because she was a best friend, and I spent a lot of time with her before as well. So there was like everything we had built on in that relationship was based on mutual friendship and a lot of trust, and there was a lot of how do I say this? Yeah, there was a lot of memories from the past on which he had built on, and it went on for a long time. It went on for almost 1.5 years. So towards the end of it, what had happened was, like I said before, I was trying to break away from the shackles that were binding me, the family and Brahmin and all that stuff. And I was never religious, So after a point, I never had any religious beliefs. I was just respectful to anyone who did. So we built on a lot of mutual grounds, and towards the end of our relationship, we started become pillars of support to each other, and we actually motivated each other to pursue our dreams, because by that time we were finishing high school. So finally what happened was, towards my graduation, she went back home. I mean, she's from Bangalore, so she went back home, and for some reason, she said, we have to break things off. And I was perplexed, and she didn't give me a reason for until 2 or 3 days. And I was like really curious as to what had happened. So when I was like, when I was like probing and trying to find out what actually happened, she told me like there were some religious beliefs and she can't drift away from them, and that she had to stick to them. And this really hit me hard, because I was trying to break away from that. And it made me really uncomfortable, and we ended it very abruptly. It was harsh. After a few days, after all of this had happened, and we didn't talk to each other anymore, I got back a text message. It was from her. It was like early in the morning. It was one of the holidays, I guess. And it just said that someone tried to break into her house. Some guy tried to break into her house, posing as some telephone guy or something, and he tried taking advantage of her. And I started feeling the guilt after that, because I had spent almost 1.5 years with her, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not there to console her. And I just added to that guilt, because every other message after that, it said like, you had so many things you promised to me, you had so many things to say, but you never lived up to those promises. And I felt really guilty. So I thought it was wise of me to go back. But when I did go back, I realized like every second statement that she had uttered, it was directed to me somehow, trying to put me down, saying you had done something in the past, or you said something, but you never lived up to those things. Or it was basically me being subjugated to a lot of negative thoughts. And I realized after a few months, I became the villain in her life. Like everyone who knew her knew that I also existed, and I was the villain in her life. So I kind of like, for no fault of mine, I became this bad person, in her friends group. And after that, a lot of friends, they drifted away from me. They thought, maybe she's right, maybe he's this guy, and all that stuff. So, like, the reason why I told you this story was because, people usually think modern day society or Indian society for that matter, that anyone, I mean, it's male dominated or it's male centric, and no, everyone, all those guys, or everyone who's a guy escapes from this. He's not a victim to narrow-mindedness, as you would call it. But yeah, it's not easy being a man in a man's world either. Like, I can't, okay, I'll give you examples. Very recently, I got a facial done for $1,400, but I can't go to any of my friends and say, hey, does my face start glowing? You can't do that. And not just that, I used to listen to a lot of Green Day music as a kid, and I was a big fan of Billy Joe Armstrong. I'm not sure how many of you know, but yeah. So I thought, it'd be a really good idea if I tried eyeliner on. But I can't go up to people and say, hey, how do I look? Do I embrace the music that I listen to? And yeah, it's just instances like that. I mean, off late, even my best friends don't know this, but I started finding solace in talking to people who are homosexual or who are confused about their sexuality, because they're trying to fit into a society of narrow-minded people, and I've always wanted to find out what's going through their head or how they are experiencing things. And it really makes me happy sitting, in the middle of the night talking to a stranger about how he feels or why he chose to embrace who he was or who she was or whoever it is. And yeah, like I said, for a large part of my life, I've always been the awkward person. But, I just like to quote this line from Shawshank Redemption, which is, hope is a good thing, probably one of the best things, and no good thing ever dies. So yeah, I just embrace all the hope I have, and I try moving forward. Thank you.